Many threads ago, there lived a young human maiden that people called the girl. Her parents had died rows ago during a particularly fierce battle of the Great Wars. She lived in a small village of humans who, like her, had lost dear ones to the conflict. But somehow, she managed to keep smiling, to stay kind and help others through their grief. And yet, people hated her for that, for her bright eyes, her white teeth, her head held high. They said, the girl must have killed her parents herself. The girl doesn't have a hurt, or even, she must be a fairy sent to spy on us. She heard all of that, and still she stayed. She wasn't a fairy, and she didn't have anywhere to go, and so she smiled, despite everyone's distrust in her. One loop, a dark shadow crashed in the forest next to the village. A monster created by the fairies to wreak havoc. The villagers, scared, started hiding, screaming, running around. In all the commotion, the girl stayed calm and directed the children to hiding spots. The adults, far from being grateful, became even more suspicious. They thought she must be a monster as well to not fear one. And so they waited until she was distracted to grab her and send her to the forest, closing the village gates behind her so she could not go back inside. They shouted at her, "Go tame the beast, go kill the monster. If you do that, you will have proven you deserve your place among us." And then the girl stopped smiling. She looked around her, seeing nothing but trees and grass. She was scared, but she had been scared before, and she had survived. She could do it again. And so she set out in the forest, following the shadows. She stumbled on roots, slipped on dead leaves, and fell in ponds and puddles. But she straightened again, got back to her feet, and kept going. The shadows were thicker the farther in she went. After a few knits, she had to raise her hands in front of her to not slam into trunks. Her steps were slower and slower, more and more uncertain, yet her mind was set. She would face the monster. She would talk to it. She would do everything in her power to save her brethren, even if they didn't like her, even if they didn't believe her, even if they were willing to sacrifice her. She would die for them, for the orphan children in that village. And so she walked. She only stopped when a dark and low rumble made her lose her footing. She fell to her knees, eyes wide yet unable to see a thing. Ears straining, yet no whisper of breathing, no sound of feet on the uneven ground. And yet you could feel it. The darkness, it was conscious. And then, out of nowhere, it spoke. "Who are you?" The girl shivered, but she had a mission. She stayed on the ground, but she raised her head high, like her parents held theirs when they faced death. She would not bring shame to their names, and so her voice was sure and steady as she answered, "People call me the girl." Silence followed her declaration. Then she heard a step, one single step, toward her. She cast her eyes in that direction, but nothing else could be seen or heard, until the otherworldly voice asked, in a quieter voice, "What do they call me?" "The monster," answered the girl in her collected tone, without any hesitation. "They sent me here to make sure you would not destroy our village. Will you show mercy?" The monster didn't answer, but the darkness grew lighter. The girl took a deep breath, not having realized she was barely breathing before. She slowly stood up, careful to keep her face neutral in case the monster could see in the darkness. But it seemed to have disappeared in a cave the girl could barely make out just before her. She stepped forward, determined to stay until she was assured the beast would not attack her village. But something strange occurred. The darkness recoiled as she took a step. Surprised by what she was seeing, the girl took another step, and the darkness visibly flinched. She looked up, trying to make out some form in the shadows, but she couldn't see the shape of the monster. She called out to it, but silence answered. The girl hesitated a stitch, and then decided she had nothing to lose. She fully entered the cave, stopping when she reached the far wall, and entirely ignoring how the shadows moved around her, staying on the opposite side of the cave. This way, the darkness entirely blocked any sunlight from entering. The girl wasn't scared of the dark. She had never seen an eclipse, but her parents had told her about the calm, soft darkness that fell upon the world when the sun was hidden. And so she felt calm. She sat down, and she waited. And waited some more. After some thread had passed, the shadows seemed to relax, to seep into the ground and get closer to her. She reached out a hand, waiting for the shadows to come to her, just like she waited for the small children of the village to come to her first. She had learned how to not scare them away, how to let them feel everything they needed to feel, and she was reminded of them as she witnessed the shadow's hesitation. So she started talking. In a soft and smooth voice, she told the darkness, the void, the monster about her life, about the happy rows she'd spent with her parents, traveling, seeing the world. She told the monster about the wars, about the massacres and the deaths. She told it about how her parents had sacrificed themselves to save her, and how she had found her way to the village. She told the nothingness in front of her about the whispers, about the loneliness, about the smiles she kept in public and the tears she shed in private. And the shadows listened. They crept closer, drinking in her every word. When she had nothing more to say, the darkness was engulfing her hand, she became quiet, expectant, and the monster answered, "These people mistreat you, and yet you come to ask for mercy for them." It wasn't a question, but the girl said, "They are scared, they are sad, they are angry. It does not excuse what they did, but I can understand why they did it. Punishing them would be helping the fairies. Besides, there are children there, without any parents. They have suffered enough." The void shuddered again. The girl saw it and asked in a quiet voice, "The fairies did this to you, didn't they? They made you into this being of shadows and mist." The silence confirmed her suspicions. She sat there quietly for a few minutes, looking for the appropriate words to convey what she thought. Eventually, she whispered, "My parents once told me that monsters were made. Nobody is a monster for no reason. They also said that everything that can be made can also be unmade. Just because the ignorant humans call you a monster doesn't mean that you are. Just because the fairies gave you terrifying powers, the terrifying appearance, it doesn't mean you have to use them or to scare people. You can decide who you are and what you want to do. You are not anybody's puppet. You are your own person." The shadows stilled. The darkness grew heavy again, and the girl thought she had said something wrong. But since she had already said it, she decided to continue. "Do not think you are a monster. People may call you whatever they want, but I shall call you the Shadow Man." The darkness rumbled. "I am not a man." For the first time since she left the village, the girl smiled. "I do not care." That seemed to satisfy the darkness, the Shadow Man. He repeated his new name again and again, to get his mist tongue used to the sound. And when he was accustomed to it, he finally addressed her again. "If I am the Shadow Man, you shall be the bright girl, for your smile shines brighter than any sun." That made the girl smile even brighter. She thanked the Shadow Man, raising her hands again to feel the darkness sip between her fingers. She laughed softly as the shadows twirled and curled around her arms, and the shadows grew quiet, as if to let her laugh echo a little longer. When the sound had entirely died down, the darkness spoke once more. "You taught me I could choose who to be. I'll decide to be merciful. I shall spare your village, on the condition that you come visit me as often as you can." The girl agreed immediately, smiling widely, and the shadows parted to let her see the way out of the cave. She thanked the Shadow Man, promising to be back as soon as she told the good news to her village, and she left, humming to herself a song her mother had taught her. At her village door, she shouted for someone to open the gate to let her in, for the threat of the monster was no more. She told the people on the other side that she had talked to him and he had agreed to leave them in peace. And so they could let her in, so she could grab some food to bring to him. But nobody opened the doors. People thought it was a trap, that the monster had taken her form, or that she had allied with it to destroy them. They quickly whispered among themselves, and came to an agreement. In a cave in the middle of the forest, the Shadow Man was waiting for the bright girl to return. His shadows were scouting the forest, looking for any sign she was on her way back. The rustle of leaves, the sound of footsteps, a soft hum, a sweet scent, but there was nothing. Eventually, he had to admit it, she was not coming back. She had lied to him. The Shadow Man was angry, and then his anger transformed into pain and sadness. He had felt like the bright girl understood him. He had felt like a person. Was that all a lie too? Gathering his shadows, he decided he would go seek the truth. He would find her and ask her what she truly wanted, who she truly was, and then he would leave her in peace. He just wanted to know. And so he set out in the forest, a wave of darkness following him. and he made his way toward the noises of the little village. He could hear the animals fleeing him, the trees and leaves leaning away, trying to avoid his shadows, but he didn't care. He didn't care what they thought of him. He only wanted to know what the young girl who had given him a new name thought of him. At last he arrived within view of the village, and he stopped in his tracks. There, in front of the closed village doors, there was a broken body surrounded by bloody stones. Among all the blood and grime, he could barely make out her hair, her fair hand, hardened by hard labor, her feet that carried her with such dignity and confidence. The bright girl lay there, her unseeing eyes turned to the sky. She was dead. The villagers had thrown stones at her until the goddess of death cut her thread and welcomed her to the afterworld. Shadows exploded. They surrounded the entire village, entering homes, filling noses and mouths, weighing heavily in their lungs. Every human in the village shuddered in fear, cowering and huddling together. And then a booming voice echoed through the darkness. You killed her. You killed the only human among you who would bother to save you all. I promised her to spare you. She told me you were just victims, that you were scared and angry because of what the fairies did to you, because you thought she was a monster too. The voice grew louder and angrier with every word. You sent her to the forest to make sure I would not harm you, and when she accomplished her mission, you killed her. And yet I know she would not want revenge on you. She knows the true evil in this world is in the fairies, that they are the true culprits and the ones who brought you to this. And so I shall avenge her by destroying the beings responsible for all of your despair. I choose to spare you. People were in disbelief. They exchanged looks, swallowed hard, but none of them dared utter a word. And so the dark voice continued. You shall give her a proper burial, and celebrate her, for she saved you all. When I come back, if I find you did not respect my wishes, I will kill you all. And then sunlight suddenly flooded the village, and the Shadow Man was gone. Too surprised at being spared, the villagers did as asked, and buried the bright girl with the utmost respect. And then they went to her grave, one by one, apologizing and thanking her for everything she had done for them, for her bright smile. Many cried, wishing they had been half as optimistic as her, half as forgiving. They regretted what had been done, and saw it would never be done again. And so they built a statue in her figure, so the monster would be able to find his way back to her when he came back. But he didn't. He fought for Rose against the fairies, against his creators. He fought against their hold over his mind. He saved many others in the process, never once being called a monster again. And he fell as a hero on a sun-bathed battlefield, his shadows finally clearing away to let him enjoy the sunlight once before he passed. And as his last breath fell, so did rain. The true names of the bright girl and the Shadow Man have been lost to the many threads of existence, and yet they echo in every person who chooses to smile and to spare others. They echo in everybody who chooses their own path, despite what other people think of them.